Hi adventurers, I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday. It's Tomiko Joy with Integrated Body Telehealth Solutions. I am back again today to continue talking about and sharing more experiences with you about mechanical diagnosis and therapy and how I use that with my patients in and outside of the clinic. So for many years I have been keeping in touch with patients via email and text messaging and sometimes a phone call if needed. But what I did learn was that I could talk to patients on the phone and I could talk them through some different movement techniques based on what they were telling me their symptoms were. And I could even do movement testing with them over the phone or email without having to be right in front of them. So with many of the MDT clinicians, the technique really starts hugely hands-off, which is why I feel like this is a perfect thing for me to be exploring via telehealth. And so I'm wanting to get in touch with people who maybe can't get into the office for one reason or another, but they need to speak to a professional about some of the symptoms that are going on, and they need some basic directions on where to go next with their problem and reducing their symptoms. So mechanical diagnosis and therapy is something that absolutely can be done remotely. I think using FaceCam and email or even being on a Zoom conference call is a great way to be able to get a high quality treatment, even if you cannot get face-to-face with a McKenzie clinician. So today I'm going to talk about the next book that's really important for your journey, which is called Treat Your Own Neck. It's by Robin McKenzie. You can get this book on Amazon. Another place that you can get it is on a website that I refer patients to for physical therapy products and other resources called optp.com. You can also go to the McKenzie USA website and look at their product store there, and you can purchase online. The McKenzie Institute is actually international, so even if you are in another country, if you're in Australia or some other country, New Zealand, Japan, I don't know if they actually have a website in Japanese. Honestly, I haven't looked, but I have seen that they have a lot of different countries listed there. So you could go ahead and take a look and see what's available as far as what website is available in your country. So I highly recommend the book. I generally am wanting people to read, if they're going to be doing some work with me, I'm generally going to be wanting them to read to about, I believe it's about page 23 to get started. If they read to that page, then it will give you the basic foundation of what you will need to know to be successful at doing the McKenzie work for cervical pain. So let's go ahead and tie in this conversation and relate it back to the last in-depth video that I did regarding spinal anatomy. It was kind of like a webinar, a Spinal Anatomy 101. And I talked extensively about spinal alignment, spinal curvature, and just the effects that spinal alignment can have on our health, either negatively or positively. So a couple of different topics that have been coming up very consistently and this whole last year, but it seems more so in the last maybe 6 to 8 weeks, which is hypermobility and autoimmune conditions. So I feel like more and more there are conversations going on about people being curious about autoimmunity and either realizing that they have a family history of autoimmune disease, or that maybe they have a list of symptoms that are consistent with maybe some autoimmune diseases, and maybe they've gotten tested and sometimes those tests come back negative, but they're still having all these different symptoms that might be related to food and environment and all different kinds of things. There's a plethora of different kinds of symptoms that a person can be bombarded by. I think one of the common things that I see in the clinic is just a very highly sensitive person. So I think a lot of these people that are hypermobile are very sensitive people on multiple levels. I have noticed that many of them are empathic, and they are hugely suffering from their sensitivity in relationship to being overstimulated by life and by environment and by chemicals and other toxins. Sometimes they have high sensitivities to medications, and maybe have experienced lots of drug interactions and negative side effects to taking drugs. But I have always wanted to be a bridge between conventional and alternative medicine. I can see that both are needed, but integrating these two based on kind of like a more scientific approach to dealing with the patient is where we're going to see the most effective results in treating these patients' symptoms, as well as I believe a lot of them are also experiencing some kind of chronic pain syndrome of some kind. Some people are having symptoms like throughout their body, and some people are having more localized symptoms, but either way, I have noticed a huge amount of these people are highly sensitive people. They're very empathic. So I think it's important for us to also address one of the things that goes on with the neck is communication. So right here is our throat chakra, and that is the energy center for communication. And so sometimes when people maybe are not speaking enough, stating their needs, having healthy boundaries in relationships of all kinds, it could be with people, it could be with family, it could be their relationship with work, or it could even be school, or even finding life direction. That it's really important that we are verbalizing our intentions for what it is that we want in life, so that we can ultimately reach the highest level of happiness. So let's briefly go back to just a quick review of anatomy of the spine. So the cervical spine has 7 vertebrae: C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, and C7. And I want to remind you that there is this inward curve that makes up the cervical spine. Then we have an outward curve that makes up the thoracic spine. And then we have the lumbar curve, which is another inward curve, just like our neck, called the lumbar spine. And these curves in the neck and the low back are called lordosis. It's the cervical lordosis is the neck, and the lumbar lordosis is the low back. So when we're talking about alignment and a straight line, so when things are stacked up and we're in good alignment, the head will be right over the pelvis. So if I'm sitting up with really good posture, my head is going to be right above my pelvis. And as soon as my head deviates from that area, then I am potentially straining something mechanically in my spine, which can have a direct effect on your nervous system. And then that can also have a direct effect on your immune system, which is your lymphatic system. So your lymphatic system holds your immune cells. And sometimes when things are mechanically out of whack, that can make your immune system weaker, and that can predispose you to different kinds of conditions. It could be a sore throat, it could be difficulty swallowing, it could be neck pain. C1, C2, and C3 refer symptoms up into the head, so you could have any kind of symptom under the sun in your head, including sinus blockages, vision issues. I think I already said headaches. You could have some hearing issues. If it's really bad, it might cause some vestibular symptoms like vertigo. Vertigo is a mechanical condition. It's based on these little crystals in your ears called otoconia. And sometimes when your neck is all messed up and then you move funny, or you have this weird habit of like, jackknifing out of bed or using poor posture or body mechanics, then you potentially could get vertigo. And dizziness is a very common symptom with lots of people. Elderly people are highly affected by symptoms of dizziness and vertigo, so we need to also kind of rule out which condition it is and where it stems from. There can be mechanical considerations for either type of symptom, but we also might want to consider if there's a person is having some kind of drug interaction or a drug side effect, or if they are hydrated, or if their blood sugar is low. So there's lots of different factors there to consider that we might need to take a look at based on your medical history. So going on to the cervical spine in relationship to mechanical diagnosis and therapy, what you need to know if we're going to work together, the most important pages probably to read are page 1 through 23. I want you to literally start at page 1 because there might be some really important information in there that might be pertinent to your condition, or as well as maybe why you have not responded to other conditions. So I want to briefly talk about something that I'm going through right now because it is what I just spoke about in relationship to mechanical issues having a direct effect on our nerves and as well as our immune system. Because even this week, I had a reaction. I went out to eat at this very lovely, healthy restaurant in Portland with a friend that I hadn't seen in like 10 years, and I was super excited. And I did not look at the menu before I went. I was really busy this last week, and so I didn't get a chance to look ahead at the menu. So when I got there, I kind of just was like fumbling through the menu or whatever, but I was really happy with what I got. It was this delicious bone broth soup that had some kind of meat in it. It tasted like buffalo, but I can't remember what it was. And then it had all these other types of root vegetables in there, and it was really wonderful. And then I also had this gluten-free toast with like this sauteed mushroom combination on top that was really fabulous. So what happened was the food was like extremely salty, and I have a high sensitivity to salt. My fluids get all messed up, and I can get really inflamed, and sometimes it can take me like a week to get over the problem. But anyways, I think I did a lot better this time because I'm still kind of getting over the hump. Today is Saturday, and that happened on Thursday. So I have been recognizing what's been going on, and I've been babying the situation ever since. So what happened was I went out to eat. I had this delicious meal. It was way oversalted, but I was so excited about the food being healthy that like I just ate it anyway, and I was hungry. So I was like, oh, yummy, healthy food, and I'm just gonna eat it up. I did take some of it home, but I pretty much ate like 80% of the food. And I figured that I might have a reaction. And then later on that day, I ended up going to this little get together, and there was a bunch of yummy food there, and I was very proud of myself that I wasn't just like, I didn't go crazy and just like sample a lot of different things that I shouldn't be eating. But I did eat like 3 meatballs that were super delicious, and they were extremely salty too. And I just like gobbled them up. I ate them because I was once again, I was hungry again. I was just eating that as a little snack later on in my day. So then I kind of was feeling, I didn't notice the effects of all that sodium right away, but it did catch up to me. So yesterday, on Friday, after I got home from working in the clinic, I got home and I was hopeful about getting some paperwork done at home for some personal things that I'm working on. And I was so tired. I didn't have any energy, and so I ate some lunch because it was lunchtime. I was eating a late lunch, and then I laid down and took a nap, which sometimes I do on Friday because it's the end of the week and I've been working hard and helping people figure out their challenging problems and giving them solutions for them. And so I was just kind of winding down, and I fell asleep. and on the floor, and the floor is really hard, even though there's carpet. I fell asleep on the floor, and I maybe slept in a little bit of an awkward position, and I woke up and my neck, it didn't hurt, but like I kind of felt like I had a sore throat. Like I wasn't in pain, but I felt like I had a sore throat, and I was like, oh, I hope I'm not getting sick. I'm feeling a little weird. And I started like taking vitamin C and, drink a bunch of water, and I knew that like every time I was, going to the kitchen and eating a snack or eating a meal, that it was kind of making the situation worse, because I had already had this salt overdose. And so it was already having an effect on making me inflamed. And then I fell asleep on the hard floor, which kind of kinked my neck. I didn't have neck pain, but I was starting to feel a little bit weird. And I was wondering if it was really a sore throat or if it was a mechanical issue. So I even took some I took Cold Calm just in case. And I was drinking lemon water, and I took some Emergency, and I was trying to take care of the problem before it turned into something that I, was going to feel sick all weekend. And then I realized that I was also feeling a little cranky. So not only was I like dehydrated from the salt, starting to feel a little swollen, getting a kink in my neck, and this was all making me very irritable. So this morning when I woke up, I took a leave. So this is how I want to tie in the need for conventional approaches along with natural approaches, because at this point I just didn't want to take any chances. I was like, okay, well, if I'm starting to develop a derangement in my neck, and if I'm starting to feel inflamed, and that's the reason why my throat is starting to feel a little sore, and I, maybe I'm going to get sick, but I'm not really sure. I just didn't want to take any chances, because, if you have a derangement, sometimes inflammation starts and it builds and it turns into pain or some kind of other symptom. And so if you can treat that chemical part first and get ahead of the game, then a lot of times treating the mechanical issue is a lot easier. And so that's actually what happened today. I went to bed, had taken all that stuff. I woke up. I still didn't feel quite myself. I was a little cranky and I wasn't in pain, but I still kind of had this feeling like, man, I really feel like I'm on the verge of getting sick. And so I took another round of leave, and I took kind of a high dosage, because I was just like, I can tell I'm inflamed. I'm just gonna knock this out, and then I'm gonna like work on treating my neck. And so I did. I started working on my neck, and I started doing some stretches that I needed. And let me remind you that with mechanical diagnosis and therapy, we have to go in what's called the directional preference of movement. And that directional preference of movement is the movement that your body wants your joints to go in order to get relief of symptoms. Okay, so I know my body very well, and in 2015, I completely recovered from loss of function and symptoms due to this long-standing cervical dysfunction that I had in my neck from an injury that I sustained when I was like 6 or 7 years old. When I, at the same time, injured my neck, I also sustained a traumatic brain injury without loss of consciousness. I was the only one there, and I had fallen, and I fell and hit my chin right here. And so for over 30 years, I suffered from a neck problem that was causing me severe sinus symptoms, and it was affecting my energy levels and my concentration levels, my cognitive abilities, my comprehension abilities, and I struggled daily, every day that I was in school, like basically from first grade until, long past graduating from physical therapy school. So it wasn't until 2015 that I completely treated this problem that had been plaguing me for over 30 years. Hugely affecting my immune system, hugely affecting my behavior, hugely affecting my quality of life in general. So I'm super happy to be over that problem. And I was just telling you that story because I wanted to draw that connection between mechanical problems, neurological problems, and the immune system, as well as being a bridge between conventional medicine and alternative medicine. So there are times when we need to draw from both sides and we need to calm down some really acute episode of symptoms using conventional approaches. If your problem is kind of more chronic and not acute, you certainly can try over-the-counter remedies. Some herbal remedies work great. Acupuncture works wonderful for symptoms of being flared up. I highly recommend that if you have some out of control inflammation, that you consider acupuncture as a natural remedy for reducing inflammation. It's worked wonders for my patients. However, when you have a mechanical issue, you need to treat the mechanical cause. For some of these other more subtle symptoms that you can get away with, taking herbs or some kind of supplements, Chinese medicine can be great for that. Naturopathic medicine can be wonderful at maybe getting on some daily regimen with both diet and supplements to reduce your daily lower grade problems that you're experiencing. So if you have a question about your neck or some symptoms that you're having in relationship to your immune system, if you are someone who has hypermobility, or you have recognized that in your younger years you were very flexible, overly flexible, so to speak, these are things that you might want to consider. I test people in my office for hypermobility. I can also test you over video cam or email. Probably video cam is going to be the most effective for testing for hypermobility. It's a very simple test. There's 9 points that we assess, and there is a specific criteria on what determines that a person is hypermobile or not. Another condition that some of my patients need to explore with their primary care providers and possibly get referred to specialists if there's any, recommended. Physical therapy could be a specialty that somebody is referred to. However, the reason why this topic is extremely important to me is because when somebody has hypermobility, it is super important that they get to the right type of physical therapist. Not all physical therapy is great for treating hypermobility. You have to know a lot about biomechanics and specifically about directional preference of movement. It is the key in helping some of these patients that have chronic pain and persistent pain, along with oftentimes autoimmune symptoms, or maybe they have already been diagnosed with autoimmune conditions. So your bodies are super simple. I meant sensitive. Your bodies are super sensitive, and they need a lot of attention, and they need you to pay attention to the symptoms, because if you cannot monitor your symptoms throughout the day, it will be extremely hard for you to overcome dealing with pain related to hypermobility, as well as the sensitivities that you may have as somebody with an autoimmune condition. So if you would like to know more about this, please private message me, or if you want to post a comment in the group, I would appreciate that. I am going to be monitoring all of the comments that people make, and I will be asking for permission to post before I post, because I feel that for a lot of you, you're going through some really sensitive issues in life, and I want to respect the privacy of those who maybe are survivors of trauma for some reason. I am a trauma-informed physical therapist, and I have an extensive amount of experience working with patients who are trauma survivors for one reason or another. So I look forward to getting in touch with you soon, and please be interactive and anything that we can share with the group so that everyone can glean this information, particularly though for those who have been searching and are struggling and are looking for solid solutions. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Saturday and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great day.